Whoa, Ambition Station! Look how complicated this thing is. Why is this thing so complicated? Ambition Station, am I right? Ah, llama! What game is it really noticeable that, one part of it is the prototype or some parts of it is unfinished? Overlook. The interior of Overlook is kinda ugly. But the exterior is very interesting, look at that. Oh, look. Alright, so I'm gonna have to restart to get rid of some of this lag. Save and quit. Go back in. So we are at 3-1 Overlook. We're gonna go to 2-1 Necropolis. Oh, Elder Scrolls Online. And I guess World of Warcraft too, not that I've played World of Warcraft very much. Elder Scrolls Online, as they add more and more content over the years, you can tell that the newer stuff has better architecture than the old stuff. It's actually really, really noticeable. The base game, I guess they had a certain amount of money and they just had to make it. And so most of the cities and towns in the base game is just copy and paste assets, like they have houses and things, and they just kind of take the meshes and arrange them on the landscape, and that's the city. Whereas the I mean, they do a similar thing with the expansions, but as the years go on, they become more elaborate, the architecture becomes more convincing, and so like it improves. Oh, but why is there like a hole in the ground there? What on earth? Wait a minute. Anyway, that's later. We'll fix it later on. So Elder Scrolls Online, you can tell that the architecture just gets better over time. And I'm just wondering if they'll ever find the money and the time to go back and just redo the whole game. I guess they won't. Except that World of Warcraft did that, right? Kind of. Not that people were happy about it. In the Cataclysm expansion, World of Warcraft, I think, just redid all the maps, all the areas. I haven't played World of Warcraft very much, so I don't actually know the details. But the Cataclysm expansion, they basically redid everything. Wait. Oh, there's a well there. I wonder... I was thinking like how would... Is it possible to like design a game with that in mind? Like design it so that it's easy to go back and remake everything. I mean, of course you can. I guess any game that's easily moddable or it's designed with DLCs in mind should be relatively easy for you to go back and just replace the old content with new stuff. How is this? Minecraft is doing it continually with retexturing. But that's the thing, however, like textures are easy. You just replace one image with another image. Minecraft is not doing it with like core mechanics, right? I mean, Minecraft, they had talked about trying to make the thing easier to mod, and then they never did it, because they have to remake the whole thing. How is this Skyrim with its retexture and relighting? Yeah, but again, like textures and lighting is easy to change. Whereas, like actual models, actual architecture, how is it? It kind of did some with the new lighting, with the new fighting system. But the combat is... it's not one of these things that have open-ended consequences. Not like, you know, putting a piston in the game. Putting a piston in the game was ambitious, right? Because pistons, it changes everything. The fact that you can move blocks around without a player digging it up personally, that had huge implications for the game. The thing is, if you change like architecture in the game, like imagine if Skyrim, they like change all the houses and change all the dungeons. If you change actual geometry, you have to test all the new geometry again, right? Like because you have to test the dungeons to make sure people can't get stuck in a corner somewhere. So it, like whereas a texture, you don't really have to test. Because it doesn't change the gameplay. If you change the shapes of the buildings, then you have to like test the gameplay. It's a whole different can of worms. Maybe there are non-interactable parts. Or somehow you retain the same collision mesh. No, you can do it. No, you can't do it. You just retain the same collision mesh, but change like change how it looks. I guess if you design the game so that the collision meshes were different from the object models. I mean, some of this like HD remake stuff, because they don't want to mess with the meshes, they use old meshes and then new textures. But you can kind of like if the game is too old, you can tell that the meshes are low resolution. And stuff like this applies in the real world too. Real world infrastructure. I was gonna talk about earlier how, I mean, you make continuous updates to your roads and train networks and airports. I mean, I guess you kind of do. Like where I live, Auckland Airport is getting a serious renovation right now. Roads less so, but occasionally you like rebuild bridges and things. Street lights get updated. But then lights burn out anyway, so you kind of have to change the lights every now and then. One of the things going on in China now is that they're experimenting with designing roads to facilitate autonomous driving. So there's like internet connections built into the roads, for example, so you can remote drive the cars reliably. And I guess you can like put in guide signals for the cars. So one of the difficult things with autonomous driving is seeing where the road markings are, especially when it like rains. When it is raining and it's at night, like humans can't see the road markings under those conditions, and neither can machines. Half the time you're just like guessing. You're guessing where the road markings are, or you're working from memory, because like you can barely see it. And I guess like theoretically you can, I don't know, put wires, put sensors, put magnets or whatever it is, put something like bury something underneath the road that a machine can sense to guide the cars. Or alternatively, you just put different kinds of markings that are easier to see. But like doing stuff like that, you basically have to rebuild the whole road. You have to like dig it up, put in the technology, and then repave it. So you're just like rebuilding the roads all the time, whenever there's new technology. And like, why not? Why not have like Wi-Fi in the roads? Imagine like Wi-Fi buried underneath the roads. You just get free Wi-Fi all the time. In your car. Why not? They did it in the subways in Hong Kong. I'm sure they did it in other subways too. At some point they just put Wi-Fi in all the subway tunnels, and so now in the train you can get free Wi-Fi as you're like traveling through the city. It's not that different from putting tram tracks into the roads. Electrical grids. People are talking about smart grids. Which, I mean, smart grids can mean a lot of things. Partly it's just more sensors to more accurately and more quickly detect where the power is being used and how much, so they can balance the load more quickly. The other part of it is to turn the grid into a bi-directional network. So the old networks, a lot of them, they only work one way, right? Like the generator generates power, and then you at your house, you use the power. But now, because you can put solar panels on your roof, you want the system to be bi-directional, so that if you're generating power from your solar panels, you want to be able to supply that back into the grid. So the network has to be like built differently so that it works both ways and not just one way. That means rebuilding the whole grid. That means rebuilding the whole network. But once you do, then you can have distributed power generation, which there are a lot of benefits to, because it's more resilient, you don't have a single point of failure, and solar panels don't pollute as much. But to allow that, you do have to rebuild your whole infrastructure. So just rebuild everything. What I'm saying is, the fact that I'm gonna have to rebuild everything in my Minecraft Trains project, it's not a bad thing. Just trying to find excuses to justify rebuilding every single thing here. We're going to 2-1, right? This is loop 2. What's 2-1? Was Necropolis. Necropolis is cool. It's over here. It's the no, not over here. Necropolis is the desert one. Desert's over there.